welcome back to Gens Before Friends. I am Queen MG, and I'm here with my lovely Swift. I have Mockingbird
Hello, everyone.
and Morbid Plum.
Hi, guys.
And welcome to episode 28. So, woo woo,
Yeah.
getting
Goodness, when is it
ever
long?
closer to 30. Super excited. We'll have to do something fun for 30.
Oh, yeah, for
But
sure.
um, today we're going to be discussing all things chapter 34, which just came out, called Doomed Course. And with the chapter came a new killer and a new survivor. And we thought we would go over all the lore things today and probably talk about their perks as well. So, you guys ready for story time?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm excited.
I figured we would start with the survivor. Her name is Taurie Cain, and I don't like her, but you know what? Let's give her a fair chance.
I was like, oh, like your favorite.
I don't know if she's getting a fair chance. I think you've made up your mind. I'm not saying
Okay.
I actually agree with you, but let's share her story and
Yes.
everyone can make up their own mind. But I think there's some good discussion points we
Yes.
can talk about when we're
Yeah.
done.
All right. So, Tori Cain was born and raised in a suburb outside Glasgow with her older brother Ewan. Unusual for Scotland, the kids were homeschooled, but by all appearances seemed perfectly average. In truth, they were quite the opposite. Her parents were part of a secret society, and Tori and Ewan were raised to be acolytes of that same clandestine cult, the Disciples of the Black Talon. Dun dun dun.
Ooh.
So this mysterious Kobal has existed for centuries and worships an ancient deity that exists in another dimension. They call the deity the Black Talon and believe it is somehow helping humanity transcend mortal existence. Those poor, poor fools. Vincent Cain, her father, was a professor of archaeology, and Rachel Cain taught anthropology. Family vacations took them all over the world, but instead of theme parks, they visited the historical sites of ancient civilizations, like the site of the world's oldest megaliths of Tepe in Turkey. Sorry if I mispronounce things.
It's okay.
I'm trying my best. So they would visit like oldest megaliths in Gölbekli Tepe in Turkey, where ancient cultists boiled the flesh of decapitated heads and carved mysterious symbols into the skulls. Locations like this had areas that overlapped with the Black Talon's realm, and they called these overlaps the bleed, and believed secret knowledge and technology is hidden by ascended disciples from advanced worlds to be discovered. But the bleed holds many dangers, both physical and psychological, and those who venture inside wear special armored hazmat suits as a defense against those perils, though no one really knows how much protection they actually provide. The disciples of the Black Talon built an underground complex near each bleed they discovered, complete with living quarters, storage areas, and laboratories. When Vincent Kane entered the bleed at Gobekli Tepe, Tori and Ewan were mere fledglings, and when he didn't return, his wife went after him and disappeared as well. Desperate to find their parents, Tori and Ewan snuck into a chamber, but soon realized there were no hazmat suits left. There was only one of the original suits, like an old diving suit with a connecting air tube which didn't fit her, but she refused to abandon her parents and decided to enter the bleed without a suit. Ewan was too afraid to follow. Tori found madness in the bleed, and savagery and horror, blood-curdling shrieks and ferocious growls and something slithering in and out of the shadows. She could feel the eyes of predators as they hunted her in this strange, timeless place where two realities folded into one. Struggling to keep her fear under control, she came across pieces of a bloody hazmat suit. She found no body, just hunks of hair, chunks of hair. Sorry, I'm now editing the story as I go along. Get it together, behavior. So she found chunks of hair, chunks of flesh, and steaming viscera. Nasty.
Ooh.
Yeah. 100 feet away, she located her father. His suit intact, but he was unconscious. She struggled to drag him away even as predators stalked her from the shadows. As they circled closer, her brother Ewan suddenly appeared in the old, oversized hazmat suit. He led the otherworldly creatures away, allowing Tori enough time to pull their father to safety. With the screams of her brother still ringing in her ears, she emerged unscathed with her sanity intact, which amazed the disciples of the Black Talon. Her father eventually recovered from his injuries, but never again ventured into the bleed. Tori suffered no ill effects from her time in the bleed, at least nothing physical, but something dark touched her heart, and she had many recurring visions of selfless disciples hunting and sacrificing victims to the Black Talon. She believed her visions were omens, and she was certain she would one day serve the Black Talon in the same way, as a disciple. Members of the cult rose through the ranks slowly. Secrets were doled out little by little as acolytes graduated from one tier to the next. But Tori rose faster than most and was sent on missions all over the world. She located and retrieved many arcane antiquities and strange oddities, and with each new find she unearthed more knowledge about the Black Talon. And each time she ventured into the bleed, she felt more of its cold darkness taking hold inside of her. She liked the way it made her feel impervious, indestructible, unstoppable. As a trusted servant of the Black Talon, she no longer felt like prey, she felt like a predator. Tori was single minded in her pursuit of any knowledge that would help serve the cult, but not everyone believed in transcendence, and some were even trying to expose the disciples of the Black Talon as a force for evil. Such doomsayers didn't understand that sacrifices need to be made if humanity ever hoped to ascend to another plane of existence. Now, one such enemy was a paranormal investigator and podcaster who claimed the cult was an instrument of malevolence. I can't
That's
say
a
the
hard
word.
word.
Evil.
Yes, of evil.
Evil probably would have been a better word there, guys, but it's fine,
Okay,
whatever.
I just can't speak today. This vlogger was determined to unmask them, but she disappeared while investigating a World War II bunker high in the French Alps. Her brother Jordan blamed the disciples of the Black Talon for her disappearance and worked tirelessly to expose them to the world. Now, I want to take a pause in the story to talk about this investigator who is Hattie Core, who is already in the game as a survivor. So, Hattie was added back in 2002 with chapter 24, which is the roots of dread. And to give like just a brief summary of Hattie, who we love as a survivor and we all
Oh, yeah.
play her. She's amazing. Hattie grew up in a very awesome home. Her mother was a professor and taught agriculture science at a university, and her father ran a catering business. So she like grew up in a house full of love and laughter and amazing food. And her parents, this is like the kind of story kind of starts when she was 10. Her parents would tell stories of India and told Hattie like come the next year we're going to take you to, India and, visit Punjab and stuff like that. Unfortunately, during that time, it was the holiday season. As many parents do, they went to a holiday party with their best friends who were Maurice and Francois Royce. While at the party, Hattie started to feel really sick. So she called her parents, and as any good parents do, they kind of rushed home to her. Well, in the process of driving home, her father lost control of the car and they crashed. And they were found 2 days later. So in the crash, they got stuck in the car and they died. Now, when Hattie was being
Sad.
told all this, she was kind of coming out of a fever. And after being told this, when she woke up, She kind of had like a white streak in her hair, and she kind of developed the ability to like see things that were scary and hear things, and she was connected more to like this paranormal world. Now, she was adopted by her parents' best friends, the Royces, and they had a son named Jordan. So Hattie was once again back with like a loving family. They all loved her. Jordan loved her. Despite being adopted into the family, they referred to each other as like brother and sister. So like in a lot of the lore, it's like they'll talk about them being brother and sister or stepbrother and sister, even though they're not blood related. And Jordan was the one who, when Hattie started to have like more of like these visions and hearing things, he referred to the dark areas that she kind of found as like these areas of overlap, which Tori's people called the bleed. He referred to them as, I was trying to look where it was. Oh, I actually said it right. He referred to them as overlaps. Okay, good.
It's
I was checking my
overlaps.
notes.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I remember that it is overlaps because that's what they're called in Alan Wake as well. The bleed,
yeah.
where
Okay.
it's
Oh,
thin
okay.
between the dimensions, is an
Uh-huh.
overlap in Alan Wake. So it fits with the DVD lore too.
Yeah, it does.
There we go.
So they actually started to record themselves like going to these places, and then they got with their uncle, which would be Jordan's uncle, and he helped them produce it and create like this podcast slash web series. So the survivor they're referring to, the one that went missing, that's Hattie. And Jordan kind of made it his, after Hattie went missing, he kind of made it his life's work to find her and like hunt down the people he thought was responsible for her disappearance, which in this case would be the people that Tori are associated with the Black Talon. So hopefully that helps with that little bit of lore and determining who disappeared and who Jordan is. And I still want Jordan in the game.
Same. I
Yes,
was thinking the
yes.
same thing.
Yeah.
But we got Tori, so
Oh, we
let's
got
keep going.
Tori. So
Yay!
as Tori reached the highest levels of the disciples of the Black Talon, she learned their darkest secrets, like how they appeased the Black Talon with a sacred ritual of torture and sacrifice before entering the bleed. Jordan discovered one of these rituals was to take place at the grand opening of a new quantum research facility, and he actually secretly taped it. He then posted the video online to show the world like how evil this cult was. Unfortunately, the disciples of the Black Talon had connections everywhere, and they used their power to convince the world that this video was a fake and kind of just like a prank among researchers and scientists. So no one believed them. They then sent Tory to hunt Jordan down and end his one man crusade against them. They told her if she accomplished this, she would ascend to the inner circle of masters and one day become a pure disciple in the Black Talon's domain. So, unquestioningly, and with a fanatic determination, she did locate Jordan and rendered him unconscious with chloroform. And when he awoke, he found himself tied to a chair in an underground complex. So Tori was dressed in a ceremony robe mask, and she was kind of approaching him with a dagger. She had never killed anyone before, so as she approached him, she hesitated briefly. She didn't know what to say or do, and a strange numbness began to crawl over her neck. Her ears, her face, her lips began to tingle. She just stood there staring blankly at her sacrifice, wondering what was happening to her. Killing was easier in her dreams, like in her visions as a spectator, and try as she did, she couldn't stop her hands from trembling. And just when the masters were about to intervene, she took a deep breath and remembered the sacrifice would usher her into the Black Talon's domain, where she would take her rightful place among the other disciples. So, with renewed conviction, Tori lifted the ceremonial dagger with both hands, and just before she could plunge the glistening blade into the non believer's chest, a cold black fog surrounded them. Everything went black. Time seemed to stand still. She heard muffled sounds and a faint pressure in her ears as though she were in the bleed. And when at last the fog cleared, her sacrifice was gone, and she found herself in a place of perpetual night, the Black Talon's domain, but not as a disciple, as a sacrifice.
Oh,
So, yes, that is Taurie's lore.
remember, y'all, cults aren't gonna let you just become like cool people. You're gonna have to earn your way up to the top.
Yeah, apparently you're gonna have to kill for it.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Tori.
So something I noticed, I didn't realize this till you were reading it. She kind of has a parallel with Hattie in their
Yeah.
abilities.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
But where Hattie's, I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but like, and of course they got them differently, but they are both sensitive to like the overlap or bleed.
Hmm.
And, but Hattie mainly uses her ability to like find out what happened at a certain spot. Like she can hear like past memories and
Hmm.
voices, stuff like that. Whereas Tori's is, it seems more on the evil side. Obviously she's having visions of like the sacrifices and stuff, and she's like enjoying it,
Hmm.
right? She's
Yeah.
not disturbed by what she's seeing. So that's just kind of the difference between it. But I did notice there seems to be kind of a parallel in Tori and Hattie's abilities, and that might be
Hmm.
why they tied them together with Jordan.
Hmm.
So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But yes,
Yeah.
where's Jordan?
Yeah, I
Where's
wondered.
Jordan? Where's Julian from Michaela's chapter too? Like,
We want
J
all these
again,
people.
the J names, the J names.
What are you doing with the J name?
Y'all don't want any J
Yeah.
name people except for Jonah and
They're cursed.
ugh.
Yeah. Tori's definitely been indoctrinated from a very young age with her parents being a part of this cult. And I do agree that after she ran into the bleed to save her parents and ultimately losing her mother and her brother, it doesn't really talk about how like it affected her because she was just like, oh, from here on out, I can just see all these things and it's really cool and I feel like I'm part of something. Whereas I think most people would freak out like Hattie did.
Mm-hmm.
She was major Hattie was majorly bullied. She was kind of freaking out about it. And her Jordan, her,
Brother.
brother, is essentially like, hey, let's use this and let's find out what's going on and let's make something good out of a really bad situation. And that's what she did. She went to try to find memories, see the things that happened, and ultimately, unfortunately, was dragged into the trials, dragged into the entity's realm, and that's where she is now. But it was nice to know, like I liked, even though it was all like two paragraphs, I like that Jordan was still looking for her.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that just speaks to how awesome of a person he is and how much he genuinely loved her and like her family. I'm sure, his parents being best friends with her, they probably grew up together, right? They were probably besties themselves. So I thought that
I
was
would think
really,
so.
yeah, I thought that was really cool that he was still trying to find her and he was trying to expose the Black Talon to the world. Unfortunately, he wasn't believed, but he was determined to do that. And I would like to know where he is. Like,
Yeah.
did he get dragged in?
Same.
Was he
I
just there?
I would almost hope he got dragged in just because if he was left
If
tied in the chair with
not,
the rest of the Talons, like he'd get
yeah.
Oh,
killed. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
he'd get killed if he was still
And
in the
that's what,
cult's
yeah.
possession. They would still sacrifice him at some point.
Eh,
So part of me
yeah.
is like, it might be better if the entity took him.
Because at least
So
then he'd be, you know, there somewhere at least.
Even though
yeah,
he was perpetually dying over, he would be with Hattie.
he would be
Yeah.
with
That would
Hattie.
be a plus. But I mean, he was about to when Tori was faltering, one of the other masters was about to step in and do it. So
Yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
think,
Like someone
yeah.
will kill him if he's there, at some
Hmm.
point. Whether they
So
pause because of the black fog and then kill him later because again, they sacrificed before they entered the bleed. So he would be dead
yeah.
eventually. So,
So we're concerned about Jordan's safety. We would
yes.
like a Jordan update.
Yes.
And Julian. I'm just going to throw Julian. I'm just going to throw the J
Yeah.
names in there because the same thing kind of happened with Julian. Julian went missing and like we don't know. I mean, we
Yeah.
assume he was taken as well.
Big
Yeah. We
Um
assume he
questions
was taken.
that need answered.
Yes.
So,
That's Tori's lore.
I,
So again, she's a survivor.
yeah, I was gonna bring up that I feel like with her being in the game, it kind of brings up the point that not all the survivors are really good people. I
Hmm.
think up until most of the survivors overall are normal people. Not saying they're perfect, right? Most of them are just normal people. Some of them do have more ties to some of the deeper, like DVD lore, like Elodie
Hmm.
and Felix. But like we've had this discussion before where we felt like the characters should have been switched in the chapter,
Hmm.
especially with the
Yeah.
artist and Jonah. Like I hate Jonah. Jonah's the one I hate because he like is responsible for like bombing a whole village of people, of women and children.
Yeah.
And like he's not like the most evil person, but I feel like he is not great either. I mean, obviously I think
Uh,
Tori is worse than Jonah because she is willingly participating with this cult and even though she's not doing all this sacrificing, she's part of the cult doing it. So they're taking lives all the time.
yeah.
And she's having the visions and they don't bother her. So like on some level I feel like it's kind of hard to like connect with her
Feel
Hmm.
the same way. Yeah.
with her being a survivor.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
and also they put in cosmetics for her, right? And one of them is the ritual with the ritual garment, I guess, with the
Hmm.
mask. And I'm like, she looks like a
Mhm.
killer with this on. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
No.
Well, even her art looks very
Hmm.
evil, I guess.
Well, I mean, she is evil. I mean, I guess that's the question. Is she evil? It seems like it because even though she hesitated in killing Jordan, she was going to do it. She took a deep breath
Yeah.
and she was like, I gotta do this for the team, right? I gotta
Hmm.
do this so I can move up in the Colts. And so she was
Yeah.
going to do it.
I know a lot of people, when I've been reading like reviews and stuff or people's thoughts, people are like, oh, because she hesitated, the entity took her. And I'm like, no, no, no. That's not how the entity works. Having played the casting of Frank Stone, the main antagonist, when you meet her, she's consistently doing the things she does, knowing that in almost every multiverse, the entity willingly chooses to allow her to die. So that's kind of how ingrained these people are in like this cult is they're still doing this even though they know the entity is going to hurt them or is not, the entity is not thinking of anyone's well-being at all. I have a feeling when it comes to entity, he's willing to feed on anybody's emotions, regardless of who they are. They're just helping to feed him, essentially. So I don't really think he cares where his food comes from and whether you're stating that you're going to serve him or not. In the end, you're just something else he can or it can consume. The point people are making, oh, it's because she hesitated, the entity brought her into the realms. And I'm thinking, no, he probably just was like, oh, you're getting ready to sacrifice somebody. I'm coming for my normal meal, and I'm just going to take what's available. So I don't know if I agree with that thought. I just think the entity is going to take what it wants, regardless. At least
Yeah, and maybe he
lore
took
based.
it. And then
Hmm.
maybe he took it, her and Jordan I mean, before he was killed, obviously, so that he could have both of them, maybe. Maybe we will
Hmm.
eventually see Jordan. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that, when you go through like a lot of some of the survivors lore, I think it's implied that other people get taken, other people's parents
Hmm.
and family members, things like that. So I feel like there are more people in the entities realm. We just don't see them obviously as survivors in the game. So hopefully one day we'll see Jordan. But I
Hmm.
think, because if she had killed Jordan, then the entity wouldn't be able to take him
Yeah.
and
And
mess with him.
entity, yeah, also feeds on like feelings of despair and anguish. In this case, Tori was like a four-course meal. Imagine being sucked into the realm you thought you were going to lord over. She's going to have tons of negative emotions that the entity is going to be able to feed off of. In reality, she's kind of like the perfect meal. Oh, you thought you were gonna have this? No, you're not. You're now in here, and I'm just kind of trying to suck out all your negative emotions till you're a husk, and I throw you in the void. I could understand why the entity would take her, but at the same time, you now have somebody who is essentially like worshiping the entity in the entity's realm. And I know we play her as a survivor, right? So we control her in the game, but it makes me wonder, like, if she really was put in, would she actually like work with the entity? Polyester, who's one of the people we watch play Fog Whisper and stuff like that, he kind of made the joke that, you're just gonna have Tori in there and she's just gonna be sandbagging everybody. Um, to help the entity and the killers like kill people and down them and hook them. So that kind of made me chuckle. Something else that is interesting about the entity is I also find kind of parallels with the plagues lore in regards to how manipulative like the entity can be. So Tori, I feel like she full force I don't know if she understood what was happening, but full force knew bad things were happening, didn't care because of the way that she grew up. But like the plague, the entity kind of turned itself into her god that she worshipped. So like I can understand why the plague was so devoted to him. I don't really get that with Tori. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like
also like spirit, I think is kind of the same. Like I believe it's been also
mhm,
the red spirit, but I kind of remember like the entity made a deal with her. That's why she's a killer, so that she could
mhm,
get revenge on
yeah.
her father killing her, and so she accepted the deal. So something like that, where yeah, the entity can trick people into killing for them or making them believe like with plague they're a god that they're not actually, or
Yeah.
making promises so that they will kill for the entity. And it's so funny because I have a feeling if Tori was offered the chance, she would probably be a killer.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Mhm.
Like if the entity's like, yeah, join me and do my work, and Tori would be like, yes, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life.
I mean, she really
Done.
was getting ready to kill. So
Yeah.
I get that. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's so interesting that you have somebody who was kind of on the bad side of things and they were pulled in to the realm as well." And to me that just means no one's safe.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Not
entity
really.
doesn't care if you're worshiping it or working for it. They do not care at all. So this blind devotion's not doing anything for anybody. You're just feeding it. But I agree. I feel like I know this is something that Mocking and I've talked about, where it'd be very interesting because this is like a whole multiverse and there's different timelines to maybe eventually have certain survivors be actual killers in the game. Like in another timeline, maybe they were a killer. Another timeline, maybe she did kill Jordan and that just set her on a path of devotion to the entity that she ended up becoming a devout killer, and he brought her into the fog to kill. And then maybe in another timeline, the current killer in this chapter, her name is Portia May that we're going to talk about. Maybe she was a survivor. And we've
That would
talked
be
about
really cool.
yeah, we've talked about Spirit being a survivor because and like the artist being a survivor because there's some killers that were just like really.
Mhm.
A lot of them, well, some of them, at least with the artist, you're just talking about someone who was kind of like tormented
Yeah, for
for a
sure.
long period of time, and then you're like, oh, she's a killer. So it'd be interesting if behavior ever did something like that, kind of reverse those roles and bring him into the game. And
Yeah.
even Trapper, our beloved Trapper,
I
who
Yeah,
think
that'd
we
be
Kill
know,
really
I
cool.
think Kill Bill would fall under that too, like
Yeah.
because they kind of had a tormented past. And I
Mhm.
think Matthew Cote was actually asked this on his interview with the King and Polly about the possibility of that, because I think ever since Frank Stone came out, that has really opened
Mhm.
that kind of possibility, right? Having, killers that could be survivors, survivors that could be killers. I've seen the discussion has always been more, I think, about killers being survivors because
Mhm.
again, there are killers that don't really have like this epic evil like backstory. They're kind of like a lot of them were normal people, or they had normal backgrounds, and then they, either took a wrong turn or the entity made a deal with them, like with the spirit. So they're just not inherently evil. So it's like you could go in like another dimension. They could have been brought in as a survivor.
Mhm. And a lot of the killers that are in there, other than the blight, which we know is essentially the blight is the killer's like right hand man, and we know that the blight actively tortures a lot of the other killers, hence the blighted cosmetics that we get. And we also know from lore, for example, that Trapper has been tortured. There's been times where there is the assumption that Trapper feels remorse and is kind of being forced to do what he's doing because the survivors didn't put all those hooks and stuff into them. That unfortunately was the entity. We also know the doctor's been tortured. So a lot of these, other than some making wrong turns or having horrible things happen in their lives, or just them themselves at their core kind of being a horrible person and just things escalating, that there were some who show remorse. So it just be an interesting concept. And I think that would be a cool spin on lore that we already have, especially since we know that there's multiverses, to bring them and be like, well, if they went this way, this could have been their story. I approve. I think they should do something like that. Any final thoughts on Tori Kane?
No, I mean she's fine.
I bought her with shards. That's how I feel. I bought the whole chapter with shards.
I
Not
I
so
did
much
buy them
complaining
too.
about the Houndmaster, but it was more like, do I want to spend money on Tori? I mean, we'll talk about perks in a bit. It's also the
Yeah.
perks kind of play into the decision of whether to spend
Hmm.
actual money or not.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah.
it's an interesting take of someone pretty much being involved with the cult that worships entity being in as a survivor. I mean, how awkward is the campfire conversations with these survivors with her there? Like
Can
like
you
what, you
imagine?
worship this thing? Like how, are you crazy?
Yeah,
Like
her and Hattie talking.
I wonder how she feels now that she's like in these trials all the time.
Yeah,
Like
That's
how fun is
true.
it now, Tori?
Yeah,
Like
is it great? Do you just love it?
this is
yeah,
what you hoped for, right?
Have
that'd
you
be
learned
great.
your lesson? Don't join a cult.
Yeah, yeah, her parents joined it. That'd be so funny if she's around the campfire with Hattie talking about life stories, and Hattie figures out that she was trying to kill her brother Jordan. Hattie would punch her in the face.
Well, imagine if Jordan's in the entity too and be like, round two, let's go.
Right?
I'd be like, "You're dying." Look, I'm sorry, Tori. I'm not gonna unhook you.
Oh my God, Tori
Yeah,
and Hattie and around together. Oh my gosh.
that'd be that'd be crazy. All right, we'll move on from Tori. We're going to talk about the killer that came with this chapter. Her name is Portia May. And for the most part, actually, she has no real connection to Tori at all, other than the fact, based on her lore, it sounds like Portia was stuck in the bleed for a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and read her lore. So, Portia May's father helped found a prosperous settlement of sailors and merchants on an uncharted island in the Caribbean. They called their port town Fortune and created a vast trading network which exposed Portia to cultures and knowledge from around the world. As a sailor and lover of stories, Portia's father read her the Arabian Nights, Shakespeare, and Greek mythology, and he instructed her in sailing and celestial navigation. To be sure, he instilled within her a love for adventure so that she always wanted to travel with him. So 10 out of 10 father. He accompanied her father on a trip to Italy where he had traded sugar and silver for rare silks and spices. There they also acquired a litter of Corso puppies, which her father said they would train as hunting dogs for Fortune's yearly hunting games. He also mentioned she'd keep the strongest of the litter for her upcoming 12th birthday. She named the pups Caesar, King, Shaw, Athena, and the runt of the bunch Snug. But before she
Oh.
could begin their training, a violent storm pushed Nightstream, which was her father's ship, off course into an area controlled by freebooters. Desperately, her father tried to steer the ship to safety, but the dreaded Mad Molak attacked them with his ships and took Nightstream quickly. Those who survived the initial attack were pitted against each in vicious fights the Molak and his crew would wager on. The brigand promised the last man standing would be let go. When Portia's father refused to participate, the most vicious of Molek's men, his son Tariq, tortured him for hours and finally slit his throat. Keep in
Oh.
mind, Portia is 12. Keeping Portia alive to get past Fortune's outer defenses, Molak and Tariq returned to their sloop and left a skeleton crew on Ninth Stream. Portia would lead them into Fortune, and once inside, Molak and his raiders would attack, pillage, and burn their beloved town to the ground. So this is a 12-year-old. They kept her on the ship, was like, hey, bring the ship into your safe harbor. Using her skills in celestial navigation, Portia led them off course through an area that many claim to be cursed. Known as the Dragon's Tooth, some believe the area bled into the dark, malignant domain of some ineffable evil where monsters roamed. Portia hoped to lead Molak to his doom, and if she perished in the effort, so be it. As she approached the Dragon's Tooth, dark clouds accumulated and a coal black fog surrounded them. Sheets of rain fell, and a fierce wind roared down on the ship, creating black mountains that crashed over the mast. Instantly, Molak and his ship turned away from the storm and left her to perish. But Portia refused to surrender as Nightstream plowed through the thick fog and lightning. Her heart thundered in her chest as the ship creaked and groaned and slowly capsized. The last thing she saw before the ocean swallowed her whole was the silhouette of a giant tentacle crashing down on them. Portia opened her blurry eyes to see Snug staring down at her. He licked her face and barked for her to get up. Blinking the salt water out of her eyes, she pushed her aching and bruised body from the ground but collapsed onto the strange purple sand. She had never seen anything like it before. With difficulty, she gathered herself, stood, and turned to face the runt. Snug barked twice and began sniffing the ground, leading her to a cluster of coconuts and purple seaweed. She dried out the seaweed, cracked the coconuts, and ate on the rocks, quietly listening to creatures she had never heard before, and suddenly realized they were marooned on an island in the Dragon's Tooth. They were in a strange world, in an in-between world, a world her father had once described as a living nightmare that tortured the mind and played with the heart. And as she listened to these strange new sounds, she suddenly saw Molak everywhere. Instinctively, Portia closed her eyes and shrieked and only stopped when Snug jumped into her lap, returning her to the moment with a crescendo of barks. Over the years, Portia survived on whatever washed ashore as she battled the predators that stalked the island. Ferocious animals, vicious humans, and savage abominations not of this world. Snug now weighed over 100 pounds and followed Portia everywhere. Together they made a daunting pair, and most of the survivors on the island kept their distance. The few who didn't lived to regret it if they lived at all. And just when she was about to give up on the idea of escaping, she spotted an impossible thing while searching the beach for Snug. To her disbelief, she saw a night stream drifting ashore and the cold black fog. She knew better than to doubt or question anything on this island. With a whistle, she entered the water, but was suddenly attacked by a group of castaways. In her mind, she slaughtered Molak 50 times, and spared only those she needed to crew her ship. Together they spent days searching for Snug, but he was nowhere to be found. He was gone. Gone as if he'd never been, as if he'd only been a figment of her imagination. For decades, Portia terrorized the Caribbean as he searched for Molac. She only attacked freebooters, taking their gold and torturing them sadistically to satiate some intangible darkness living within her, a darkness like a parasite that demanded blood until it had its fill. On the occasions Portia couldn't appease its hunger, the parasite would squeeze her mind with its deadly talons, crushing reason and reality until she could see Molech's face on every crew member. She would attack and butcher everyone and anyone until one of her many trusted guard dogs barked for her to stop, and Molech would suddenly dematerialize into wisps of black fog. Terrified, the crew knew it was just a matter of time before her madness turned against them. And so, even when they finally located Bolak, they conspired to mutiny. But they had underestimated their captain. By the time Portia was through with them, there were only 5 left standing in a pool of blood and gore. They instantly threw themselves on her mercy as her dogs surrounded them, waiting for the kill command that never came. Destroying Molech would take more hands than she possessed. Gathering her wits, she ordered the mutineers to clean up the deck and feed her dogs as she steered night stream toward Mad Molech's island. Molech himself was out on the high seas, but Portia's crew captured Tariq and locked him up in preparation for his father's return. When Molech returned, he found the island deserted apart from a woman offering chests of gold and jewels. She claimed she wanted to join Molech's crew and had prepared an amazing feast for him and his men. Not recognizing her, Molech accepted the treasure and asked about Tariq. She smiled and assured him his son would be joining them for dinner. Portia served Malik an elaborate meal, and he drank and ate with gusto. The meal was especially good, roasted crisp and black on the outside and pink and juicy on the inside. He wanted to know if it was wild boar or venison. Portia smiled, stood proudly, and reached over the table and lifted a golden food cover to reveal Tariq's decapitated, glazed head frozen in a scream of terror, the mouth vomiting bullion and jewels. Moloch roared his anguish like a wounded bull, and she reveled in his torment as a thick black fog rose from the floor like a black veil. But before she could strike Moloch down, something unseen jerked him backward into the darkness. At once her laughter died, lips curled with mingled panic and rage. Veins in her neck stood out in livid ridges. Talons gripped her mind and squeezed and refused to let go. He was gone, gone, gone before she could stomp his head into a bloody pulp. Unintelligible words fumbled out of her mouth and degenerated into a guttural gasp. And just as she was about to scream, she heard the impossible. A bark. A bark she hadn't heard in years. She heard it again and again. Snug. He had Molak's scent. Not trying to understand what could not be understood, she charged into the fog to finish what she started with her long lost friend. And that is Portia's lore. What are your guys' thoughts?
I was like, there's a puppy, so I'm happy.
Snug!
Which you can pet in game, by the way, if you're the
Like,
killer.
yeah, the
You
killer
can,
can pet
if you're
Snug.
idle long enough, you get the prompt to pet the dog.
Hmm.
It's so cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna die a lot because I'm gonna want to go and just pet the dog.
Pet the dog.
I pet the dog. I guess this was the entity's plan, right? Because entity must have taken Snug, right, earlier.
Or Snug never existed and Entity was Snug all along.
That's true. Well,
Oh.
but she has. Oh, that's kind of weird though, because you use Snug in the game.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So I don't know if we've ever seen like an entity, like a part of the entity is part of the killer power. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of feel like, I guess my interpretation is Snug was real, and then entities took Snug in preparation for when Portia would be ready to be a killer for
Okay.
the
Yeah.
entity. That's just my kind of thought. I mean, I guess you can interpret it that the Snug really exists. I don't know. I'd have to go
Hmm.
reread it and look for some more evidence of like, was he physically there or not there?
I mean, it does say that, when she whistled and she entered the water and she found this group of castaways, which you can be like, were they a group of castaways or were they actual crew members from the boat? Because,
Mm-hmm.
time with entity is very wibbly wobbly,
Yes.
time lord
Yeah.
stuff. You could argue that maybe they were castaways from the ship when she originally got marooned, because it says that Snug was just gone as if he'd never been there, as if, as if he was only a figment of her imagination.
Hmm.
And then he suddenly shows up again, barking, calling her into the fog. So I mean, you could it can either be maybe he was never there all along, and that whole time that she was in the bleed just completely skewed like everything for her,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just the entity playing with her, which we know the entity loves to play and twist things for people. So
Yeah.
he was given Snug, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then suddenly have Snug taken away, and then at the end calling her, entity calling to her with Snug. So it's hard to know if the whole thing was kind of just a dream, like her and Snug, or if it actually took place, or if he was there at all.
We might find out more once they hit the tome, because typically
Mm-hmm.
next tome should be theirs. Because I know some other questions being asked is in the space lore, we don't find out what happened to her face, because as she appears in game, she is like scarred on one side of her
Mm-hmm.
face,
Yeah.
and that's not addressed in this lore. So I imagine we're going to get some more answers to like how she got
Yeah.
that. And maybe you'll answer like if Snug was there or not. Maybe there'll be more lore with her and
Yeah.
Snug. I don't know. He's a cute doggo. I would love for Snug
He
to be
Snug is
is.
real.
adorable.
And I guess in my mind I'm still trying to wrap around like how can she use Snug as part of her killer power if he never existed? Right? Because he is physical. He grabs survivors.
Yeah.
So it to me it's just kind of a weird thing. Like I guess the entity could create a dog,
Yeah. I mean, why not?
but I don't know. I just kind of like to think that he was real and he was like they were friends
And
and
they were reunited.
yeah, they were
Yeah, me
reunited
too.
and I don't know. That's how I like to read into it. But I'm not saying it's correct, but we'll just have to see what the tome lore kind
Hmm.
of adds to it. It might answer some more questions.
Well, hopefully, because had she was marooned in the bleed when she was 12. She's a lot older in the
Oh
game.
yeah, for sure.
She looks,
I
I
would
don't
say
Well,
know.
50s,
well,
maybe
Yeah,
in
late
the lore,
50s.
well, what you read, it said like decades past.
it just says over the years.
Oh, I thought you read. Oh gosh, I gotta go pull it up. I don't have it up.
Oh, for decades after she got out of bleed,
Yeah.
she terrorized the Caribbean as
So
she was
yeah,
searching for
and
Molac.
then so then
So
she would age when she's out of the bleed. Because I don't know if you age in
yeah,
the bleed or not. That's probably like the question, right? Because like in the entities realm,
yeah.
no one ages, right? Everyone's the
Yeah.
same. No one ever dies of old
Oh
age. No one
no,
ages. So once she's out of the
she's
bleed,
stuck in there whole time as a 12-year-old girl. That's terrifying.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe in the bleed she would age. I don't know. I guess it's a
Yeah.
question because the bleed is not totally the entities realm. It's like this in between, right? So this time,
Oh,
like we talked about, this time pass the same way or not?
yeah.
Does it pause completely, or maybe it just moves really slow? So maybe she did age some. I don't know. But definitely when she's out of the bleed, she would age, and it said like
Yeah.
decades
Mhm.
past. So yeah, now she's like an adult, obviously,
Mhm.
and she's a force to be reckoned with, and she wants her revenge.
To the point where the entity makes it seem like anyone, when she goes into like those rages and stuff, everyone looks like Molak, so she just
Mm-hmm.
kills them.
Do I
So when
have
you're
to?
being
Oh, go
chased
ahead.
by her, she thinks you're Molak.
Yeah, and she is also like I want to say the first killer. She has specific lines for specific survivors,
Ooh,
Oh, interesting.
interesting.
is what I've heard, and I've seen some clips of. I think D Strike on YouTube has some videos where like she has different lines for different people and different insults
Mm.
for different survivors. So I guess she doesn't see them all as Moloch all the time, but
Oh yeah. Okay,
Um,
so let's see. She does well, it says four original survivors: Dwight, Meg, Claudette, and Jake, and then also Naya, David, and Nick Cage.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so she has specific lines for certain survivors. So,
Wow. So yeah, she knows personal preferences, character traits, and reveals deep knowledge of who they are. It's
Interesting.
creepy.
I wonder if that's part of her being stuck in the bleed, because we know people who have interacted with bleed, like Hattie and Tori, have all come away with some type of deeper drawing into kind of like
So
the entity's realm.
apparently when you're in a lobby with Ellen Ripley and you're playing as the Houndmaster, Snug gets upset because Jonesy's there.
That's adorable, though. That's actually really interesting little Easter eggs that
Yeah,
they put in.
that's really cute. Yeah, I guess he snarls at Jonesy because he gets upset that there's a kitty. But that's actually cute that they kind of added that in there as a like
Hmm.
yeah, like you said, the little Easter egg. But I think that's cool that she has references to the survivors.
I wonder how close she is with the entity then, because the only other person that kind of knows a lot about everybody again is Blight, but
Hmm.
he's like, way over, you know, above and beyond over his head in entity lore. So that's interesting. I wonders about the relationship, or the entity just made her so crazy that she just kind of follows.
well, and maybe it's just she has had so many matches with the survivors. I don't know. I'd have to go watch what all the lines are and how like specific they are.
Yeah.
I did watch some of them, but that was when PTB was out, so I don't really remember.
It's curious that Nicolas Cage is on here. Like you have the original survivors and then Nicolas Cage.
This Nick Cage.
Maybe she likes
Yeah.
his movies. I don't know.
Well, she lived in a whole different time.
Yeah, not the
He's
True.
same
been
time
around
period.
the. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it could be the entity giving her information, or
Hmm.
maybe just through doing so many trials, she has
Yeah.
come to recognize stuff about the
We
survivors.
we know she's intelligent. Her father taught her a lot, and extremely smart for a 12-year-old with
Mm-hmm.
trying to overcome,
Oh yeah.
Molek's plans to take over Fortune. I don't think most 12-year-olds would have the gumption to lead a whole crew of, pirates essentially into, cursed waters. That took a lot of courage. And it also makes me kind of sad that she ended up being like a killer. Like, I
Yeah.
get he's marooned in the bleed. We know it does a lot to people's mind just from the little tiny bit that, Tori was in there.
Yeah.
We understand that. And she was apparently there for years, surviving somehow.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting how
yeah.
like you react, I guess, to what you face in there, and
Hmm.
it kind of changes you in a way.
Yeah, she was kind of, her perception was just completely warped by the entity. It talks about the talons in her head and making her see things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the reason why. But I really hope that there's a universe somewhere where this really badass 12-year-old got out and was just like, screw you to the entity, and, used maybe her newfound powers of having those extra senses for good. Like there's a way for her to combat like the entity's hold on her.
Yeah.
Because the first part of the story is so good and I feel so bad. Like I feel really bad for Portia.
Yeah. Her lore is just cool in general. Like
Yeah.
I like the whole pirate thing and
Mhm.
I don't know, it's just I like it. And I'm like, oh man, I like her. Like which
I
is not
Wait.
bad, but it's just
Yeah.
generally you're like, oh, the killers are usually evil and there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing.
well,
But
I mean, she does do some evil stuff, though. Obviously, she's killing other people. She's terrorizing people in the sea so she could get her revenge. And then let's also talk about what she does to Moloch by killing
Yes,
his
the
son
sun.
and feeding the son to him. The
Like
cannibalism. Like
Look,
it is so like story-wise so
It is
good. Such a
so
good
Rocky
twist.
Horror.
oh yeah,
Such a good
very,
twist and good way to get revenge. I mean, she didn't get her ultimate revenge because of the entity, but
very Game of
like
Thrones. That
Yeah.
if you've
Very
seen
Rocky
that
Horror
season,
Picture Show.
yeah, that's a lot of tropes have, or a lot of things have used this trope of like, hey, I'm gonna feed you like the person you care about the most, and then I'm gonna tell you as you're eating them.
I feel like they almost had to do it because I felt very sympathetic with the first part of her lore.
Yeah.
And afterwards, when you get to that part, you're like, okay, but now you're feeding people to other people. I
So it's
feel
kind
less
of less,
sympathetic.
yeah.
But at the same time, the entity's just making you see this man everywhere. It's driving you crazy. And it sounds like Molak got sucked into the realm too.
hmm
So is Molak gonna maybe show up as a killer or a survivor? Because
Oh,
he
interesting.
he got pulled in as well. So where is he?
Yeah, it's crazy to think that like the people who've been dragged in as well, like what are they up to? Are they stuck in their own personal hell, like just waiting to either be released into the game or they're just stuck there forever?
Well, they're there somewhere. We know they're
Yeah.
not in the. I mean, it's possible that once they're kind of sucked dry of emotion, they can get thrown in the void, which would be
Yeah.
really interesting lore-wise for something for behavior to do. Is all these loose ends during one of the events of
Yeah.
the void, kind of maybe having a body in there and it being Molak or it being somebody else to show that hey, we're just dealing with these certain killers and survivors and trials, but we know of other people who have been brought into the entity's realm.
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, where are they? What are they doing? Are
yeah,
they having a good time?
I guess I just kind of imagine they're also doing trials. Like we're just
Yeah.
not seeing the
That's
whole
what I'm
picture,
thinking.
or
Yeah,
maybe
that
Mhm.
there are
they're
different. Only so many people. How do I put this? Like in this area that are put
mhm,
Yeah.
together. Like maybe not all of the survivors are all together because like we've talked about, there are so many other people that have been pulled into the
Mhm.
ultimate entity's realm, but we don't see them.
yeah.
Mhm.
So like, are they doing their own trials? Or are they at their own campfire?
They're just sitting around like, man, this is fun.
Because that's kind of after Frank Stone.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of how I feel. It's because it's just like at the end, whoever's left alive in Frankston, like they go to the campfire, and it's
Yeah.
like you're just kind of randomly put with like Meg and Claude, and it's just like, is it just all random? Like you do a
It
Mhm.
could
trial,
be.
and then like you're just with random survivors, so you're only like maybe as survivors in the entities realm, you're only seeing like a few people at a time, right? Maybe you're
I
not
mean, there's
all
a
all together like in a big group.
possibility you could just see three other versions of yourself too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because all the trials are canon because of
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
the multiverse. Which again, Frank Stone. If you haven't watched it yet, we do have a full playthrough on our YouTube channel of it. But we learn that entities follows are manipulating the different timelines and pulling people out and into the different timelines. So that is all a possibility of there being multiple versions of people. So interesting stuff. But what do you guys think? Should Portia be a killer? Should Portia have been a survivor? Do you wish the lore, her story went a
Mhm.
different way?
I think she is a killer. And listening to you read it now, I'm like kind of
Hmm.
skimming it again, trying to figure out if Snug's real or not. But there is
Meg
like
is
a
real.
paragraph where she's like it says she only attacked freebooters, taking their gold
Hmm.
and torturing them sadistically to
Yeah.
satiate some intangible darkness living within her.
Yep.
Darkness like a parasite. So she has like this darkness in her. Yes, I think there in another dimension there's probably like a good version of her, but I think this version is definitely a killer. Like
Yeah.
I do feel sympathetic for her at the beginning, but she
Hmm.
does do a lot of bad things.
She
Obviously,
does.
she's killing a lot of
Yeah.
people, she's torturing people, and of course we talked about the whole head on the plate and feeding it to
Yeah.
Molak. She is sadistic. She And it makes, of
You-
course, it makes sense that the killer has a dog to use as a power. We have not seen like animals with the survivors or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm
mhm.
trying to figure out if Snug is real. This is my new me rereading it.
Yeah, it's
Snug
up
does
to
age,
interpretation.
so maybe she does age into bleed.
Yeah, he did age. He did
Yeah,
get
yeah, he
bigger.
gets like 100 pounds. It says like
Yeah.
Hmm. It
so.
does
Maybe
say she was in there for years.
so. I imagine she grew older because I think she would notice if she was 12 for like many years. So I imagine
Yeah.
Yeah,
she got older.
but we don't know how long, what time, looks like in the entity's realm either, or in this case, the bleed. We're not really sure what time looks like. So
No,
it's very interesting lore. I do enjoy her lore,
I
and
also
I
okay.
enjoy the concept of her character as well. She looks really cool.
Yeah. I love her a lot. And for just, I don't know, just being a killer, I usually am not like, oh, I love this killer. She's so cool. But this one definitely kind of, I don't know, checks all my boxes.
I also feel like this is one chapter we've had that the killer and the survivor are not related. I feel like
Hmm.
lately
Yeah.
a lot of the killer and survivor chapters they're like linked together in some way. They used to not be in the very very beginning of the game, but I feel like when we hit I'm not looking at the list. Like Zarina and Deathslinger were like vaguely related where she was investigating like his
Hmm.
story, but they were still like separate time periods. A lot of course the license chapters they're related, but I feel like they were like relating the survivor and killer together, I guess to make the lore more interesting.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
of course Vittorio and the Knight are very linked, where others are not as linked. But like we were talking about Skull Merchant the other day, Lady Voldemort and Talita and Renato and how they were related and how it was like kind of stupid. Like
Yeah, very
like we just
stupid.
happened upon these kids flying their kites
Wrong,
and
Yeah.
wrong place, wrong time for them,
so
unfortunately.
and I don't mind that they're not related. I mean, that's totally fine because it doesn't really bother me. As long as the lore is good with hers, it's good. I mean, Tori's we talked about and how we don't enjoy it. So
Yeah. Hers is fine.
I mean, they were related in the fact that they both have been in the bleed.
I guess
Now it'd
that's
be
the connection.
really
Yeah.
interesting if when Tori's father went into the bleed and mother went into the bleed, maybe the reason they didn't come out was because of Portia and stuff.
That would be
That would have been,
definitely
yeah, that
interesting.
would have been kind of a cool
Yeah,
way to
maybe Snug
tie them.
got because I was wondering in Tori's lore they kept talking about predators and I'm like, what
Yeah.
predators like are there? Like I don't think they described them.
They didn't describe
Yeah.
him in Portia's
So
either, because Portia and Snug ended up becoming the big bad
mhm.
on the island. But again, who knows how time works? I feel like bleeds are kind of like rifts almost into, part of the entity's world. And it'd be very interesting if Portia met up with, you know, Tori's mother or father, because all she was seeing was Molak's face.
Mhm.
Sh- And she was killing people.
So she
But
was
it does leave
single-minded
it,
for sure.
yeah, but it does leave it open to be like, maybe there's a possibility if you have people on the bleed at the same time that they're going to come across each other.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I mean, we don't know. We have no clue how any of it works, and
Hmm.
yeah, just all speculation. But it's kind of a cool concept, and I like thinking that maybe they did come across each other,
Hmm.
and maybe that's their connection. I mean, they don't have to have one, like you said. It's just since they have had connections, you kind of expect it now, almost in lore.
Yeah, and I mean we'll have this again, tome. We'll have to see if they address it in the tome more of what
True.
happened
I was
on the island and stuff. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot that they
I
could
always forget
explore.
about the tomes. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
Yes.
enjoy the tomes.
Yeah,
they go
It
way more in depth.
it
I
yeah.
think.
expands on the original lore, and we get a lot more information. And that's how a lot of times we can be like, okay, yeah, this person definitely should have ended up as a killer, or why is this
Yeah.
person a killer, or why is this person a survivor? When you get to see like their motivations and stuff, and there's expanding on it, So I always look forward to the tomes for sure.
Yeah, and they should be, if they follow their model, the next rift will be
Will be a tome.
Portia and Tori. That's what they said they would do going forward. But I think we're only like
Hmm.
halfway or so. I don't know how much more time is left on this rift. There's still a bit more time, so it'll be a little bit. I'm hoping they address like what happened to her face. Because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not addressed. I have a feeling that'll be something that's in there as well. We don't know when that happened, if it was after the bleed or in the bleed she got
Hmm.
hurt.
Yeah,
Um,
it could have been anything. Maybe someone she fought, in
mhm.
the bleed and
Maybe one of those creatures or some of the predators. I don't
Yeah,
yeah.
know.
it'd be cool to learn more about the creatures that are wandering around because in both of their lores, it was just predators or creatures or tentacles.
Yeah, they didn't
Didn't
really.
like describe it.
I'm not sure what the picture with the word predator. Like, I kind of am like picturing
Right?
like something on four legs, kind of like a dog or a wolf or something, but
Mhm.
that could be totally wrong.
Mhm.
So I'd be interested if they would explore the bleed more. That's definitely the tie between the two. This chapter is the bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
I also
have,
have a feeling that if the entity has this like between realm that they can play around with, there's going to be interesting creatures in there that aren't necessarily like from our world.
Yeah.
that's all I've got. That's all I've got for.
Same.
So I'm trying to figure out if Snug is real.
On the quest to find out if Snug is
I'm
real.
like rereading it and trying to like parse like because they touch, she licks her face and all of that. He gets bigger, like,
I
Maybe
but
feel
she
I
like
was
do, but I do get how you could see like
he just
that he
vanishes.
wasn't there. Yeah, he just vanishes. I kind of just think the entity took our good boy. Maybe the entity is secretly a softie for our
I
good
like our
boys.
good boy.
Our good boy. Our
You
good
can't
boy.
tell, mocking and morbid are dog people.
we
Yes.
totally are.
I'm a cat person. I'm automatically like the dog wasn't real.
I'm
And we're
surprised
like,
you
he's a
don't.
good
I'm
boy.
surprised you don't aim. Sorry. Main Ellen Ripley, so you have Jonesy like around your feet.
Right? At all
He
times.
doesn't have any good cosmetic.
They just came out with a weird
I don't
Yeah,
know.
big
hers are
white suit.
okay.
I don't know. I don't like her hair. I don't know. It's like superficial. She's not my vibe. I do like Jonesy, but you can't have Jonesy out there. This goes to my whole back in the day when we did our things like things we want in the game. I want Survivor that has a cat. Okay? And the cat can be used to like stun or as a distraction.
But we want
Thanks for
like an
coming to my TED
original
Talk.
survivor,
Yeah.
not, a licensed one.
Hopefully based on me.
So you'll be in a locker the
Yeah.
most of the match.
Yeah, that's my first perk will be called hide and seek.
I'm gonna send Snug out to find you and your cat.
Nice.
Get
But
that killer
okay.
instinct.
Yeah, killer instinct for sure. All right, so let's go over their perks real quick. So we'll start with Portia since we were just talking about her. So Portia, other than having her power essentially being snug, being able to like go out and grab people, she has her three perks. First one is all shaking thunder. It says enemies on land and sea learn to tremble before your might. After falling from a height, all shaking thunder activates for 8, 12, 16 seconds and increases the range of your lunge attack by 75%. And all shaking thunder has a cooldown of 5 seconds. And a little quote there says, "Go on, run, tell your friends I'm coming for them." Portia May.
Ooh.
As I don't play killer a lot, I don't know how great this is, but I do know that a common practice, if you're dropping down to try to like chasing somebody and you're both dropping from a great height, a lot of people on the drop just swing actively to try to help not have that little like stun moment when you hit the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that being valuable if you're in
Well,
chase and you're falling.
okay, this says it's after you fall. Okay, I think okay, so
Yeah.
I've only played one game with the Houndmaster, okay. So I'm not like the expert. But I think now reading it, I was using it wrong because I was trying to do that. But it says after you
Mhm.
fall from a height, so I need to pay attention. If it doesn't activate until you hit the ground, then I was totally
Oh,
doing
good
it
point.
round. So you're just gonna have to hit the ground. Wait, how long does it last? Well, you have it
Up to
for 16
okay.
seconds, so you could still do the swing down. Because
Yeah.
basically, the swing down makes the recovery faster for the killer falling.
Mhm.
So you could still do the swing going down and then do it again if you're on a survivor. But yeah, rereading it now, I probably did not even use it when it was activated. I thought I was using it when I was dropping and I wasn't active. So, as far as usefulness, I mean, it could be useful, but like, I don't think it's something I would put in my.
Yeah, there's better perks.
There's better perks. I mean, maybe someone will figure out a good way to use it. I'm not saying you can't use it because I mean, there are always survivors that are trying to fall from a great height. There's always challenges like that in the rift. So this might help you a bit, maybe
A lot of
not.
that is so map dependent though.
Yeah, it
Oh
is
yeah.
map dependent. And it just depends if you think you're going to, have a two-story map. Like maybe if you try to plan this and
You
run like
brought
a
a
map
map offering, yeah.
offering, but like that's a lot of work for this one
Mhm.
perk that doesn't do anything for gens or hooks. Like it's like you have coup after you fall.
And then you could just run coup. I mean,
You can run bows. I don't know if that would be
yeah.
OP. I mean, that would be
Oh my
something maybe
Oh,
to
gosh.
maybe.
try.
Whew, that's a big lunge.
Yeah, because I used to play Balanced Landing a lot, but it was very situational. Well, not situational, but like you have to have the right map, so it's kind of the
Yeah.
same thing. And I don't know, I feel like don't killers kind of get a leg up on falling from a great height anyway? Because I feel like survivors don't recover as fast from
Yeah.
a fall,
Yeah,
but
there's a stumble when you fall, unless you're
yeah,
running
Yeah.
balance. If you run
but
balance, there's no stumble.
killers, yeah, they like for sure they fall and they like fall right on top of you and it doesn't even
Yeah.
matter that they fell like 30 feet. And I'm
No,
like,
they don't have a stumble like the
yeah,
survivors. I guess
Mhm.
we might need to test if you could stack this and
yeah, that'd be
coup,
interesting.
and how
Mm.
far could you reach?
Did you read?
Oh God, I hope
Oh,
not.
oh. We're gonna for science it.
Yep.
We'll need to. All right. The next perk is called No Quarter. It says every skirmish ended with a relentless volley of cannon fire, leaving no doubt who is superior. Whenever a survivor healing themselves by any mean reaches 75% healing progress, no quarter triggers its effect. The survivor is faced with a continuous stream of skill checks until the self heal is completed. If they fail a skill check or interrupt the action by any means, they suffer from the broken status effect for 20, 25, or 30 seconds. And the little quote here says, "Fire another broadside. Don't stop until the sea takes them." That is a mean perk.
I think it can be mean on with certain killers like Doctor.
Oh
Like
God.
With a
any
no heal
or
build.
any having any sort of perk that makes you scream, like Face the Darkness. There are also
Hmm.
add-ons with killers that can make you
Hmm.
scream.
Mhm.
Is it Ultimate Weapon where you open the locker and then the survivors around the locker scream.
Yeah.
So anything like that can work with this perk. It just depends if you want to prevent like survivors from healing.
Yeah. With just a no heal build would be awful. This is essentially what's the perk with the gens that we have?
Merciless Storm.
Yeah, this the
This is
healing
merciless.
version of
Yeah.
Mercy Storm, yeah. So, I mean, overall, I think it seems like a pretty decent perk. I the couple times I have like played killers, like when we were doing like kill with your friend matches, I tend to lean towards healing builds
Mhm.
to kind of disrupt healing. So I feel like
Hmm.
it could be something that is interesting paired with some of the other perks that kind of assist with that. So I don't know. I feel like it's pretty decent. What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's one of. I'm looking at it. This might be her best perk. No, we haven't gotten to the
Yeah.
other one. This is just
Uh,
all dependent on if you heal yourself. So this doesn't work
Mhm.
with other healing other people.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, there are ways to combat this perk, but if you're running like a skill check doctor kind of build or something, I think you could get use out of this perk.
Definitely.
No, I don't think it's bad. I think it's about middle ground. Like it's not like overpowered or anything like that.
Mhm.
I don't think it's useless either. I think it will be situational, but I think we're at the point in the perks, perk ideas where
yeah.
all the perks are going to be kind of situational. There's not
Mhm.
I was
the
thinking the same thing.
like, having the nice like general kind of straightforward perk days are over because there's just so many perks in the game now. So
Yeah.
I think this one is
Mhm.
fine. Will I put it in a
Mm,
build? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be depending on what killer you play too. I think this works
yeah.
really well with certain
Mhm.
killers.
I
So
don't know, this one, if I did play killer, I think I would do what you said. I would probably play this with a doctor. I think it's an interesting perk. I'm
Mhm.
wondering how often we're gonna see it because I feel like this could get annoying if you're
Oh my
someone
god.
that does self heal a lot, which I tend to do sometimes. I say sometimes. I do. I usually carry a med kit with me. So
Mhm.
yeah, this one is gonna kind of give me. This one's gonna get on my nerves, but we'll see. Like I don't know if this will become a meta perk that people
Yeah,
use a lot.
doctor playing this and Merciless
Oh
Storm would
god,
drive me crazy.
yeah, that would be awful.
The next perk we have is Scourge Hook Jagged Compass. And it says sometimes the compass points north, other times it points somewhere else entirely. At the start of the trial, 4 random hooks are changed into Scourge Hooks. The auras of Scourge Hooks are revealed to you in white. Whenever a survivor is unhooked from a normal hook, the following applies. The hook is converted into a scourge hook. And whenever you hook a survivor onto a scourge hook, the following effect applies. The aura of the generator with the most progression is highlighted in yellow for 6, 8, 10 seconds. This one is interesting. So you can essentially move around your scourge hooks.
yeah, and this could be
Hmm.
useful because sometimes scorch hook placement sucks,
Hmm.
right? So if you
Yeah,
can
it's
get like a
hit or
scorch
miss.
hook moved to like the middle,
Hmm.
like of the map, let's say, or just where the gens are, like I think there's value in that. I think this is obviously a perk you would run with other scorch hooks though, because just seeing the most progress on or which gen has the most progress is okay, but there are other perks that
Hmm.
could kind of give you that information. Like barbecue could tell you where survivors are, things like that. So I think you would pair this with another scorch hook to get the most
Yeah.
value out of moving your scorch hook, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's a decent perk.
I forgot to say the little quote. The little quote is drop anchor out, chart us a new course, which essentially what she would be doing on the map is charting the course by changing those scourge hooks.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can definitely see how if your scourge hooks are like really far apart, you can intentionally hook somebody more towards like the middle of the map or maybe closer to like a 3 gen that you kind of want to protect
Hmm.
and converting that into the scourge hook to get that effect. But I kind of agree. I feel like this is a perk that would pair well with other perks to make it more stronger than it is on its own.
Yeah, I feel like the actual like what you get out of
Mhm.
besides moving the scorch hook as far as the gen part
Mhm.
is not that strong. That's why I think
Mhm.
you would run this with other scourge hooks like pain res or
Mhm. Yeah.
oh, I forgot the name of the other one. I think it's pinheads. The one where you're mangled when you're unhooked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like those would work really well with this perk. So yeah, you would run those together.
But
The,
I agree. Out of the perks, it seems like no quarter is her strongest.
and what I like about no
Yeah.
quarter is it's more straightforward than some of the other
Yeah,
perks. I
definitely.
mean, none of these perks are super complicated
Mhm.
actually, but lately I feel like or in the past, doesn't even have to be lately. Like we've got some really like complicated perks where
They
like
are.
if you do this and then turn around 3 times and then you can
Yeah.
activate
And
this
then
and it's just
bark. Just
like
wait till we get to one of Tori's.
it's just like all of
But make
these are
sure your
pretty
left foot
actually
is up.
straightforward, which is nice. I will give
Yeah.
them that. Mostly, all of these perks are actually very straightforward and easy to use. Because I remember, like, when Gearhead first came out on Deathslinger, it was a bit different. It was, like, really confusing to be like,
Till they
what?
changed it too, yeah.
Yeah. Like, when you hit a gen and then do this, and then, like, the same with, like, they recently changed, I think it's machine learning. It's the one where you compromise a gen.
Yeah.
And when that first came out, it was, like, the second gen you kick. So then it's like you're trying to, like, okay, if I gotta have survivors at least on 2 different gens
Yeah.
to activate this perk. It just didn't make sense.
Hmm.
Now they've made it to it's just one gen,
But it
but
only works if it's Wednesday. And the date is an even number.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if we're like you said, we're at that point with perks where we kind of have to think outside the box.
yeah.
Some of them are
And
getting really convoluted.
but some of them are very convoluted, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this is a lot. I don't want to have to do like 7 different things
Mhm.
in order to activate a perk.
Mm-hmm.
They should be intuitive.
You would hope, but
Well, I
uh,
mean, you would hope.
yeah.
Oh,
All right. Let's talk about Tori's perks. So her first perk is clean break. It says at the end of the day, everyone has to look out for themselves. After completing a healing action on another survivor, clean break activates. I feel like those two sentences are contradictory. And you need to look out for yourself, but heal people.
it's so it's after you finish healing and you're being healed.
Yeah, so after completing a
After
healing action
completing
on another survivor, Clean Break activates. You press the active ability button while being healed by
by
another survivor to
fiber.
trigger the following effects. Suffer from the broken status effect. You are automatically healed 1 health stay after up to 80, 70, or 60 seconds. The effect is canceled prematurely if you enter the dying state. Clean Break does not activate if you already suffer from the broken status effect, and Clean Break deactivates after healing you. And the little quote is, I'll be fine. Don't stick your neck out for me.
It's okay. No one wants to heal you anyway. Sorry. Oh,
No,
I
no.
mean, oops.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
So,
you
I'm looking at different wording than you are. I'm looking at
yeah, do
the
you stay
four.
so
broken on this one or no?
No.
no. So this
Okay.
one, after you heal somebody else and they start healing you,
God, that is a
you
lot.
press the button to become broken. And then after, if you have it tiered up all the way, after 60 seconds, you're automatically healed.
Cool.
I don't
So
know why you would do this. I just don't.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
don't know. Instead of standing there at the extra 16 seconds for a heal,
yeah,
just get healed. If the killer's not coming towards I don't.
just get healed.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'll be interested to see if anyone can figure out what to do with this perk. I mean, the only like benefit is that you don't have the other person doesn't have to take that time healing you and you can go like get on a gen or something, but you're
Yeah.
broken for a full minute.
But you're
So,
already
Yeah.
taking the time to heal them.
yes, you have to heal them first, which I imagine
Yeah.
if you ran this with like we'll make it would still count, which cuts your healing time in
Oh,
half or botany
yeah.
knowledge. Like if you ran it with a perk that makes you heal faster or you use a med kit on them, you would
Yeah,
do a
but
Haster heal. But I don't get what the benefit is of this perk. Does that make
yeah.
sense? Like I don't know why I would run this.
Well, because if to say you were doing a healing build where your thought process is, well, I can heal somebody and heal myself, then you can just run the Jane perk where you're healing some. I think it's Jane perk, right? Where you're healing
Solidarity.
somebody, solidarity, where you're healing someone and you're healing yourself at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You can just
Yes.
run that. This one, I feel like it just leaves you open. One, I hate the broken sass effect.
I do too.
Two,
If
you're going to have to avoid the killer for 60 seconds. And most likely in this case, if you're healing somebody first, means that you're the one to go unhook them.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I feel like this is going to be something that's going to be done while at a hook. So I don't know if this was one of those things to where like again, we kind of had this shift where a lot of killers are coming back to hook, where it's like, okay, well, you can heal the hook person, and if you trigger this, then you can try to run away and you'll get a heal. But again, 60 seconds is a long time. If you don't have it tiered up all the way, 80 seconds
Yeah, it's
to
a
I
wait for
lot.
the heal.
I feel like if it was cut in half the time, I might consider running it. Because then you could just have the go hop on a gen. Like, I feel like after 30 seconds, I feel like I could be safe for 30 seconds. I feel like the minute time is
Yeah.
a little scary of trying to avoid the killer. And then if the
Hmm.
killer figures out you have it
Mm-hmm.
and they see you're broken, they might come find you.
Because you're going to be easier to down. I think the only way I would use this perk, if there was a version to where I healed someone and then automatically after healing it, because the part about why they're trying to heal you, you can trigger it. Why are we even trying to heal me? Don't put your hands on me. You might not let go.
Because
Killer
this,
comes.
I think once you're
But
broken, they can't continue the animation.
yeah, but at the
So
same time, for me, a perk like this would be better is okay, I heal you. I now have the ability, kind of like a token
this
system.
this is like a reverse for the people.
Yeah, so it'd be kind of like a token system where once I heal you, I have the option to automatically heal myself at any point, which then I would seem to me would be more useful because you could technically time it to where, hey, when you're about to get hit, you automatically heal and you just took another hit. I feel like that would be more useful than being broken for 6 seconds to get a heal.
I also feel like this perk doesn't fit Tori's lore and character.
Well, that's the
No.
funny thing is this like her little quote, I'm fine, don't stick your neck out for me. It says at the end of the day, everyone has to look out for himself. Tori is looking out for herself. She's not going to be healing you in the first
Yeah,
place.
that's my point. Like,
Yeah.
why you have to help someone else before you can activate this perk. I feel like she would just
Which
steal
is,
health states from
which is,
survivors.
yeah, that'd be another one. When you're by an injured survivor, you could just heal that health state and they go down.
I say, when you go across a survivor, you can just stab them in the back and give them to the
Yeah,
killer.
I feel like that
Yeah,
might be more accurate of
yeah, it doesn't match her lore or anything like that, and it's
Neither
not a
neither does
good
another one of
perk.
these too.
Yeah, we'll go on to our next one. It's Invocation Treacherous Crows. One with arcane knowledge has no reason to fear those watchful birds. When in the basement, near the circle, press the active ability button to begin the invocation, which takes 60 seconds to complete. During an invocation, your aura is revealed to all other survivors and they can join it. And that would accelerate the process, so it would not take the full 60 seconds. Once the invocation is completed, the following effects apply. Whenever the killer scares a crow while survivor is inside their terror radius, the aura is revealed to all other survivors for 1.5, or 2 seconds. You automatically enter the injured state from any previous health state and you suffer the
Oh
broken
god.
stats effect for the remainder of the trial. So, kind of like the other invocations, once you do them and they're complete, you're then broken for the rest of the trial.
Which I find so pointless.
Yeah, it doesn't,
Also, oh, go
the
ahead.
risk reward is, it doesn't equal for you to
Mm,
use any of the invocations just to be broken the rest of the trial. And it's completing the invocation disables all invocation perks for the remainder of the trial for all their survivors. So if someone brings in another invocation, it just completely takes out their other invocation perk.
Yeah, I was gonna say you cannot stack these, which I found
Yeah,
out in PGB because I don't
okay.
know if they had that note in there or if I just missed
we
it
tried.
because I did it. I ran both them and you have to choose which one
Yeah,
to activate.
get shoes.
So I don't like the whole broken status effect thing.
Hmm.
Not at all.
I did run it in PTB. Some maps and killers you get more use out of it than others. It's kind of a hit or miss thing. I would say I had one match on the game where we got tons of use out of it. You saw the
Hmm.
killer a lot. And I think it also depends on the killer if they are running a build where their terror radius is bigger.
Hmm.
Some killers do that. So, like we talked about, like Skill Check Doctor, but also like Wesker by default has a really big terror radius.
Yeah,
So, you could get a lot of use out of this perk, but I don't know if it's worth being broken over.
yeah, don't think it is
Like,
personally.
I think there are other better aura reading perks like alert.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Even like something like kindred would be better on the
Or
survivor side where
Fogwise.
fogwise. So like if you wanted
Fogwise
to
is
see
good.
the killer, fogwise and alert. If you want to help your team see the killer, which is kind of what this perk is doing, then I would say kindred helps when you're on the hook and
Mhm.
to let everyone see, and then you see everyone when someone else is hooked with kindred. There's bond if you want to see the other survivors. Like I feel like there's better just aura reading perks in general for
Mhm.
survivor than this one where you have to be broken. Like I almost feel like the other invocation perk is better than this one because at least with the other invocation perk you get gen progress off. You like it, you the total amount of the gen
Mhm.
is taken off. And I think that is probably more useful than this.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, this
Yeah.
one's like, cool. So you sit in the basement for a minute and then you're broken and
Hmm.
kind of useless because
Yeah.
unless you're really good and you're not going to get caught.
Or
Yeah,
wiretap.
and it's
Wiretap's another good perk for seeing the
yeah, and this
killer.
one's
Oh,
all
yeah.
dependent on just crow RNG, like,
Yeah.
and hoping that in order to get the aura reading, a survivor has to be inside the terror radius,
And the killer is Scarecrow,
and the killer has to scare a crow.
which can be also map dependent. Some maps spawn more
Yeah.
crows than others. And so I think if it was changed to be more like, okay, like in 2v8, when well, this might be too OP now that I'm thinking about it, but like in 2v8 where you have the scouts, right, that can see like reveal the killer aura. Like if
Mhm.
you had when the survivor is in the killer's terror radius and is looking at the killer, you can see the killer.
Mhm.
Which may
Yeah.
be OP in a Swift, so then you have one survivor like following the killer all the time. But I would definitely trade Broken Stats effect maybe for that
Yeah,
over
Yeah, but the
right.
funny
this.
thing is, because for the scout, which is something that you and I played a lot, we both enjoy the aura reading. We weren't following the killer around the whole
Mm-mm.
time. It
No.
really was just when you were in certain positions or when you could see it, because you're not helping your teammates if you're not doing it. If they made it more like the scout, I don't think it would be too OP.
I think with certain Swifts it might be.
Yeah.
But like a bully squad. But I don't know.
I feel like this perk is something you would bring in if you weren't running a Swift, because for the most part, I feel like a lot of the aura rating perks work better if you're with a Swift. That's part of the reason I run alert, is that I can give you guys check-ins.
Yeah, and
If
I
you
love that
run
part.
other wiretap, it's good if maybe you're solo queuing because everyone can kind of see it. And other perks like Fogwise and stuff, one of our friend Patfoot uses that one a lot. And again, she does it to call out 'cause she just happens to be really good at hitting those great skill checks. And every time you hit a great skill check, you see the killer. Yeah, I just to me the risk is not worth the reward. And the couple times when I did play in the PTB, I wasn't really getting great use out of it at all, and then I was broken. This one, Tori's little quote is, "Remember your training. They taught you all about the crows." So
Yep.
essentially, because she has this training,
Sure.
she knows how to like utilize the crows, I guess. Okay.
Yes, but crows
We're
are
like,
not in her
really?
lore, so like,
It made no mention of crows in her lore. Yeah,
yeah.
very
And I
true.
guess
No.
they seem to be obsessed with the invocation perk
Yeah,
I
thing.
think
which
they're
aren't worth it.
well, this is like their new boon thing, right? Like they
Yeah.
have
Yeah, because they
boons and
ruined
I
boons.
think they gave up on boons and now we're doing invocations.
They could
Yeah,
have just not ruined the boons they had.
which is
Stuck
very
with
I
true.
those.
mean, facts.
Or if you're going to have something like this where you do it and it causes you to be broken, I need more of a reward for that.
You need like two more extra hook states if you do this.
Yeah, you need something else. All right, her last one is shoulder the burden, which makes no sense at all for her
Agree.
lore. It says, born to be a disciple, ready to submit to a greater cause. This is your calling. Once per trial, and while you're not on death hook, so you can't be on your last hook, press the active ability button while standing in front of a hook survivor to unhook them and trigger the following effects. Trade one hook state with the other survivor to their benefit. It causes you to scream. It also causes you to suffer from the exposed status effect for 60, 50, or 40 seconds. And the little quote is, now it's not your time yet. Now go on. Which again, totally different from her lore. So essentially, if you run this perk, you can go take a hook state away from somebody and you gain it, right?
Yes. So
Yeah,
this
Yes.
you
is like
gain
to
it.
prevent like tunneling.
Tunneling. Yeah, why are we using perks to prevent that though? There's other things I feel like that can be done. But also this doesn't make any sense for her
Right.
as
Yeah, again, it doesn't go to her lore.
yeah,
And I think I played this one in the PTB and it was
we did.
interesting, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is like a game changer.
Yeah, but I also feel like as a killer, if you are keeping track of like the hook states, once you realize that somebody has this, you now know that somebody has an extra hook state that you can try to get out. One
Yeah.
that they didn't originally have. Maybe I can understand like top tier like Swifts running this because I know a lot of times, especially like competitions and stuff for people, depending on the situation, it is better to have that person on hook go to a second stage in order to
Mm-hmm.
get gens done. And then I can understand when they're getting rescued, taking that hook state back, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But most people don't play that way.
Most
We've played
people.
that way a couple times where we're like, just go ahead, I'll take the hook state, finish out your gens, then come get me.
Yeah, it's usually like end game where we're like, okay, you're on the
Yeah.
last gen, then stick the
Yeah.
last gen.
Yeah. Stick the last gen.
But not like when we're at 5 gens. No. I also
Could you
don't know
imagine?
if this is worth the exposed status effect either.
No, I think the one time
Same.
I did play in PTB, I just got downed.
Well, yeah, because you scream, so automatically
And you're at
Yeah.
it's
the
like, oh,
unhook.
they know where they are,
Yeah.
and then you're dead. Not dead, but you go down. But
So that
could
they know the person unhooking over there has this too, which is kind of like a trigger for the perk. So
hmm
there's no reason for them not to go back to unhook because even if you have it tiered all the way up, you're exposed for 40 seconds.
yeah.
Is it gonna go hide in a locker for that amount of time or something?
Yeah,
I don't
hopefully
know.
you're not injured and they can't hear you. But
That too.
Yeah.
so a lot of the kind of complaints with Tori is that her perks aren't really great. And I would have to agree.
Yeah, they're pretty mediocre.
That's why I
At
bought her with
least
shards.
Not even mediocre. There's nothing here that I want to run
yeah, no, you're right.
because everything has a penalty to it. So,
So that's what
yeah,
Yeah.
happens when you're
Why
evil.
why are we
I
being
know.
punished?
You're getting
And the
punished.
funny thing is,
I didn't even
Tori,
think of that. Oh my God.
yeah, all of her perks have a penalty to them. Yeah, every single one.
Wow, that sucks.
Sucks to be
I
Tori.
I
What the
know, but
hell
I also feel
behavior?
like they could have done something really cool with somebody who was ingrained in the cult that essentially like worships the entity. She could have had some really cool perks that maybe worked with the entity
I'm surprised they didn't
or
reference like that. How should she describe it? Like that inner feeling she would have in the bleed, like
the
none of.
yeah, like the inner feelings she gets.
Mm-hmm. That caused her like to start seeing the visions and stuff. Like
Yeah.
she would talk about that, and there's like no mention of that.
Yeah.
That here, like even in the invocation, that would be where I would kind of put it. Like she used the darkness within her to like
Yeah.
do this perk, and yeah.
But I feel like they just missed an opportunity because we do have other survivors who have, for example, the ability to block a gen from being kicked by a killer. Like it's like you call upon, whatever, and you can
Oh
block
yeah,
the
the
gen.
entity. You
You
actually call
call
upon the
upon the entity,
entity to
yeah,
block it
to
for.
block the gen, which also shows you the entity plays both sides. He's just like, oh, that sounds like it'll be fun. Sure, go ahead and block the gen and stop a killer. I don't know. I would have loved perks that either he called upon the entity and was able to do something, or perks that messed with the killer. But to have somebody who was trained to work for the entity and she's now in the entity's realms, all her perks are essentially to help other people.
Like, did she have a change of heart when she was taken? Like, that's what I kind of
I
get from
guess.
this. Like, she wanted to be nice now. It's just so hard because with her lore, I just can't imagine her helping other people. I mean, maybe it's a harsh reality now that she's in the entities
Mhm.
realm and she's accepted, like, I'm gonna have to work with these people to survive. Maybe we'll see that in the tome lore, but like with her lore, I just feel like she stab everyone in the back and get hatch. Like that's what she
Maybe
would
that
play
should be
every
her perk.
trial. Like would be like leave
Lori's
everyone
like,
to
"Oh,
die.
I'm in the realm of my god. I'm going to stand back and help the entity kill everybody."
Yeah. I feel like she would help the killers. But again,
Well,
maybe she has a change of heart because now she's
maybe she
the
turns
victim. She's
into
the
like,
sacrifice.
yeah, maybe she turns into like an anti-hero. But it's just funny, kind of like what Morbid said. None of her lore, even though the quote says, "Remember your training, you were taught all about crows." There's nothing about crows in her lore.
They
There's
should have given
nothing
her like
about
a
her.
pet crow at some point in
Yeah,
her lore. They should have had like
yeah.
she should have had a pet crow.
I mean,
Agreed.
we know she has gumption because she just ran into the bleed full force with no protection to try to get her parents out. So we know that she does kind of put herself out there for people she cares about.
Yeah, but she cares about. She's not going to care about anyone
Yeah.
that's that's in the entity's realm.
So the perks confuse us lore wise, and they're just not good game mechanic wise.
Agreed.
That is the official survivor and killer from the newest chapter.
No new map. Just going to put it
No
like
new
that. We
map.
did.
Oh man, they missed an opportunity. A
Oh,
pirate ship? Come
I was gonna
on.
say we could have had pirates, and it would. Oh my god.
They
Or
have
an
a
island?
in one of the so in one of the Matthew Cote, it may have been King and Polly's again. They talked about maps, and basically Matthew Cote said they can't do a map for every chapter
Yes, they
because
can.
then we would have like a ton of maps, and then you would never get your favorite map right. The more maps are in rotation, the less likely you're to get them. So, and I think the maps also take a lot of
Well, yeah,
work,
I'm okay
cool.
and
with
they
that.
don't get anything monetarily out of the maps. So I'm just putting that out there. That's what Matthew Cote talked about. I'm not saying I agree with it. Like I kind of get it in a way. Like if you're hoping to get like the new map, but there's like now we have like 20 maps in the game, then yeah, you're probably not gonna get it very often. And I also know there's a lot of discussion about map offerings right now, if they should stay in the game or not. So there's also that. No new map, just throwing that out there. Because in the PTV, we did get to try out the new Orman map, but they had stated it was not coming out with this release. So we might see the
Mhm.
Orman mining map in the future. Apparently, it's in like the Legion lore, so or in the comic book that they
Mhm.
came out with, but I have not read that. So, but that's what I've
It
heard.
was
It's
it was an
referenced,
interesting map. Yeah.
so we
I
might
have a
see it.
solution for this behavior. You can put in new maps and maybe take out like the 5 versions of the farmhouse maps,
Ooh,
or
Macmillan.
Macmillan, the 11 variant maps in Macmillan. Take out some of those. Like we don't need like 25 versions of every
Mm-mm.
map.
I think it would be
Maybe
different if the different versions were tied to different killers. We'd feel more connected to them. But like the Macmillan was the trappers maps, and I mean I mean Macmillan's been around for a while because it was like the first maps they put in the game, right?
mhm.
So they needed maps back when there were only like 4 killers. So I kind of get why there's a lot of Macmillan and Coldwind, but we can like
You can trim them
dial it
down.
back.
Because
Dial
if
it
they're
back.
like, "Well, we're worried about variety," I'm sorry, I don't feel like we're getting tons of variety as is. We get a lot of the Macmillan, we get a lot of farm maps, we get a lot of the Oni's map. I can't
Mm-hmm.
think of it right now for some
Oh,
Yakima.
reason.
yucca
Yeah, the
something.
estate map.
I feel like their
Yep.
map prevention doesn't always work either because I've gotten the same map back to back before, which they're
Yeah,
supposed to
weren't they
Yeah,
have
supposed
map
to fix
repeat.
that? Yeah.
But I'm not sure if
yeah.
it always works. Not saying it doesn't, but I feel like I have gotten repeats back to back. I wish it wouldn't repeat Ervu's smart enough to like not send you to the same realm, right? Because
Yeah,
each realm, so
that's
like the
the
Macmillan
issue.
maps are one realm, Colvin Farms is another like realm. So like it wouldn't send you like to the same realm back to back.
Yeah.
That way you weren't
That's
like on
interesting.
Macmillan 1 and then Macmillan 3 and
Yeah, I
And
don't
then
think that's
yeah.
taken into
Badham also
account.
has like 5 iterations too.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, yeah, we have, like, 30 of those.
That makes
Oops."
sense. They should do that instead of what
I
they have
agree.
now is have it be the realms. So that way there is constant variety. Because it's true, we've had plenty of nights or just like, okay, we're going through all the Macmillan maps and all the variations of the Macmillan maps, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I agree. I wonder if they could do that. Behavior. See if you can do that instead,
Yeah.
and that would help with variety. That would
Fix that.
also help with the excuse of not being able to have a lot of maps. If you had it to where it was based on the realm you were in and that was constantly changing, then we would be seeing more map variety for each trial.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Start working on that. Something for the new year.
Yeah, there you go. You can add it to the play thing that's coming up or whatever, the timeline that you guys always come out with.
Yeah, but I completely agree that you really missed out on doing a really awesome pirate map or pirate
Or the
ship
island even, the
island.
where the bleed is.
Yeah.
That could have been
I mean,
interesting.
what does that look like? Because it talked about like the island having, was it like purple sand? Like
Mm-hmm.
it was very unique. I
Yeah.
would
Ugh,
freaking
that
love
would have been
that.
so cool.
Have been so cool. Missed opportunity.
Well, yeah, especially like I know they wanted to redo a lot of the maps, which cool, I guess, whatever.
The
But
graphical update. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just feel like that effort could have been spent on cooler maps for us to have.
I think they are gonna
Yeah.
go back and do the trickster map.
I was about to
There's
say
been
that. I'm still
talk.
waiting for a trickster map. Yeah.
I've kind of heard that
I
they are
know.
gonna do that. I think because people would love it and people want it. So hopefully they
Yeah.
do go back and do that. I mean, because they are adding this like Ormond map, and that is kind of random because it goes with the Legion and Jeff lore.
hmm
So
I
it's
mean,
not
I'm
coming out.
never not going to say no to a new Ormond map as it is one of my favorite maps. So I was very happy when there was like a different, whole new completely variation. Some really cool like things on the map. Although do think that it is very easy to gin lock on it. So be careful.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any final thoughts on Tori Kane or Portia May?
I guess we'll see when Tori becomes the killer. I don't know.
That'd be
Her
really cool.
one of her new cosmetics, the one with the ritual like garb and mask, makes her look like the killer, like a killer. And even the trailer, okay, the trailer they came out for the chapter, or like, it was a trailer that had the cosmetics in it too, so it wasn't just for the chapter. It was like new chapter and like the added cosmetics. And I was like, Tori looks like the killer. She's like waiting for the killer to finish everyone off. And she's like hiding behind this boulder or
Mm-hmm.
something. I can't remember. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh, have y'all seen the new Houndmaster cosmetic that costs a fortune?
No.
Oh,
The one
no.
that changes Snug into a poodle.
Oh, yes, I have. That changes Snug into a
No.
poodle.
I'm
Oh
not
my
really a
god.
fan of it. I don't mind Portia's cosmetic, but I don't know how I feel about the poodle
Well, it
look.
says that it's another one of her dogs,
Oh,
from my understanding. I don't think
I'd
it's
have to go
Snug. I
reread
think
it.
it's
Oh.
supposed to be a whole other dog.
Okay. Yeah, because she did have multiple dogs. She had dogs after
She did
Snug.
have multiple dogs.
But anyway, okay, well, replacing Snug with a
Okay.
poodle.
The poodle's kind of cute.
My girls saw it and they were like, I don't know.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
can't.
I'm like,
we're just
How
we're
come here to
Now
partial
it
to
is.
Snug.
Snug.
It is very expensive.
It is the most expensive cosmetic I think they've ever had. It's 20
It's what
bucks.
17.55
Mm-hmm.
of work cells.
Yeah, it's pricey. And I mean, I guess part of
I
me kind
can't
of
see the
gets it.
shards on the screenshot I was looking at.
I don't think it's for sale with shards, but I could be wrong.
Okay, this
I think it's
screenshot I think is PlayStation, so maybe for PlayStation it is. I don't know.
I'd have to open the game to see. But like
Same.
the complaint I've heard, oh gosh, I'd have to look at the cosmetic. The cosmetic is of course locked, and it's like an I can't remember if it's legendary or ultra rare. Whatever the tier is
Mm-hmm.
typically like, you know how we have like the Were Elk cosmetic, like that's one of those where it
Mm-hmm.
has its own like voice line,
Mm-hmm.
like different voice, but a different Mori. And this one does not have a different Mori. So that's the other complaint I've heard about this
Ooh,
cosmetic with
okay.
how much it costs and what it's classified as.
Yeah.
It's supposed to have a custom Mori and it does
Oh.
not.
I wonder if they're gonna have to put that in later, but that's true. That's one of the reasons you buy cosmetics like that. For example, I have the Naughty Bear cosmetic
Mm-hmm.
for Chopper, and part of the reason I got it was because of the Mori. Plus, I just wanted to run around as a cute bear.
And the bear is adorable.
The bear's so cute.
Yeah. So that's kind of the complaint. I mean, I guess it's because you're getting two or one and a half cosmetics. I don't know. The dog should count as a full cosmetic. Like,
I mean, lore-wise, I find it interesting if it is supposed to be another one of her dogs. I looked at the cosmetic briefly to see if I could get a name, but again, it was briefly, so I didn't like deep dive to see if it gave like the dog's name. If it was like, oh, is this Athena or Caesar or King, like one of the other dogs that it mentions.
mm-hmm.
Are we gonna have
But
to
I
name
didn't
it?
see anything. But
Snug
yeah, I
2.0.
can. No, there's only one Snug. We'll
Yeah,
let Snug be Snug.
it looks like all it says is she formed a natural bond with each of her dogs, of which there were many.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna see different dogs. Well, this one's real, maybe. I don't know.
If we get a
Well, who knows?
dachshund, I will become
A
a main.
toxin?
Can you imagine? I feel
I
like if you
will.
have a dachshund, it's going to be like a Victor scenario where you can just drop kick it.
Oh.
No. You're kicking my dog.
There's
You
this
can't if you
little
can't tell.
dachshund biting someone's ankle.
Oh my god, that would be hilarious. It would be barking the entire time.
You don't
If
if you
they want to
can't
be
tell,
accurate.
Morbid and I both have dachshunds. So
Yeah, we're
Yes,
dachshund
they're
lovers.
dachshund lovers.
oh, I would part of
Oh
me
my
would be
god.
like, sure, I'll spend 20 bucks on it.
Yeah,
If
I'd
there was a
buy
dachshund.
it.
Just for the memes, gosh.
The dachshund just runs up and yaps at you the whole time.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're just like,
It's just
God.
constant killer instinct with the dachshund.
And then like pet the dog, it's like the dachshund rolls over on its back and give it a belly rub.
Give me tummy rubs.
Oh my goodness. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, I think that's everything.
So
Yeah, same.
let us know your thoughts on the new Killer Survivor. Do you like their lore? Do you like their perks? Give us the good, the bad, the ugly. Also, for those that do not follow our YouTube or our Instagram, which is Events Before Friends, Mocking is currently playing through a game, Deliver Us the Moon. And the first episode is already up. Morbid and I have joined her on this journey, and it's been a lot of fun.
This
Yeah,
game's so good, y'all. The
yeah.
The
story
game
is
is
so good.
so
Really loving
good.
it.
So if you're a fan of dystopian space, suspense, stuff like that, I think you'd really like it. So you can go give it a check out. We already have the second part of it in the works to post.
Hmm.
And the second part was, oh my gosh, Chef's Kiss so good, and the twist at the end
Yeah, it was
was
really
just
good.
phenomenal. And Mocking is really good at navigating space under pressure
And getting oxygen.
and getting
Oh
off
yeah.
and beating timed events. And so it's been so good. We weren't sure what we were going to think of the game, but so far it's been a really awesome story. So hopefully you guys can join us in that adventure and check it out on our YouTube. For those that just listen on the Spotify, you can get some extra content there between podcast episodes. We are trying to play other games. You can kind of chill with us and laugh with us and cry with us and gasp with us as we kind of play all sorts of different games. So go check that out. But we'll close out per usual. We want to wish you a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are. And bye.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.